I think you would have to come out from that kind of experience, either destroyed as a person or puffed up as a person, or eventually go, heck with it all. I was there, I did my best, here I am, and so be it.
Yeah, I ended up having that feeling, as you just said here in the end. I think, the first year after coming back, or coming home, or coming out of it, was tough, especially if you, like me, was going for it. And I told myself, Bettina, you have to be there imagining your boss is there looking at you, your children is there looking at you,
Mm-hmm,
and your
mm-hmm.
karma is there looking at you. And I really remembered those things, but that didn't mean that no one thought I was an idiot or worse based on their belief. But I came home with my integrity and my ethics and moral in order according to my perspective.
Welcome, everyone, to the Spiritual Forum. I'm so glad you're here. It is a delightful May Day in Wisconsin, USA. My guest is in Denmark, right? You're in Denmark?
Yes.
Yes, I'll introduce you in a second, but I just love the idea that people from around the world can talk at the same time on a platform like this. It's just kind of really a cosmic gift. So I just want to say I'm so grateful to all of you who support this podcast. And if you have any questions, anything to me, just email me at revcarolsaunders@gmail.com. I hope that you consider coming to my retreat this October. I'm going to be having some videos coming out on that soon. It's a spectacular event for anybody who is interested in evolving your consciousness and widening your circle of compassion and really authentically becoming your best self. So more on that later. Let me introduce you to my guest. Her name is Bettina Tammaro. Known as a wild child from an early age, can't wait to hear about that. She has embraced life with a fearless, adventurous, and heartfelt spirit. Once considered a troublemaker who often struggled to fit in with traditional systems, as many of us feel, many of us find that very, very familiar, she now channels that boundless energy and unique perspective into creating resources for children who might need to see the world through a different lens. She is a two-time cancer survivor and a two-time challenger on the TV program Survivor. First, in 2013, she spent 33 days on an island in Malaysia. And again, in 2017, she spent 28 days on the island of Cameroon. I'm going to get this right. Caramoan, Caramoan,
Yes.
Caramoan, Caramoan, in the Philippines. She was also a contender on the TV show Wipeout. That's crazy. Today, she's a certified energy healer, clairvoyant, and medium, and she helps people discover the happiness in living fully and authentically. Her irrepressible curiosity and determination have taken her on adventures that many of us have probably not taken. Welcome, Bettina.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the beautiful presentation. Thank you.
Well, your life is so fascinating, and I think so many of us are either afraid of taking those adventures uh, or we just don't make our lives work for it. And you sure did. So we'll jump into that in a minute. I want to do a few of these rapid fire questions that you agreed to. And I'm really looking forward to hearing this. So don't feel like you have to expound on this too much. We'll talk a little bit about it, but we'll get into the depths of your life after this. Do you have any word or phrase that you would say guides your life?
Mm, Well, really short, in very short sentence, I can say, don't chase your pension, chase your passion.
I know so many people who've chased their pension, and
Yeah.
I get that. I
Yeah.
really get that.
There's enough for all of us as long as we choose our passion, I believe. That's one of my mantras.
I love it. Okay, that's great. Um, we've all had lessons in life, but you've had so many unique experiences. I'm wondering if you might be able to share with us just one of your bigger life lessons. Can you think of one on the top of your head?
Yeah, I think I think I've been thinking about my life a lot, and why I've been doing the things I've been doing. And it's basically, I seem to jump not knowing what's ahead, but the jump for me and the curiosity to know what is in the water is more important. The benefits outweigh the consequences. And I don't always end up with only dolphins. Sometimes it's whales, but I learned from that lesson too. And I can always use that on the next journey of my, the next, let's say, adventure of my life. Does that make sense?
So it's jumping in without having to absolutely know what the water is going to be like and what is there for you, but
Yeah,
trusting the process.
yes, exactly. And I don't know if I would say, I would like to be able to say I have so much faith in everything I do, and but actually it's more just me being 5 year old in a grown up's body.
Okay.
It's based
Okay.
That's
All
more
right.
the thing. It's just like I want to try that. I want to try that more than my mind can keep me back.
Okay.
Does that
Okay.
make sense?
That makes a lot of sense, particularly knowing what I know of your life. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. So I think we might have covered this, not sure. But if you think about like what legacy you want to leave, like what was your general message to people? Is it the first statement that we talked about?
Yeah, and
About
it's just the part about staying true to you, the inner voice, the inner. Mm, there's always in life this, when situations are happening or people are saying something or doing something, you always have this, if you notice it, or that's my experience, this inner voice with the real opinion of something you want to do or something that happened. You always have this inner real voice, and it's about just putting a microphone to that rather than the mind talking to yourself about what you shouldn't do or should do. So just go straight out with what you have here. Um, then there's less of a cleanup afterwards.
I love
Cleanup
that. So it's
meaning,
like the power of your own personal voice versus all of the conditioning, all of the stuff that mom told us, grandma told us, what our society tells us. Listen to your voice. And
exactly.
I love the idea of putting a microphone to that because it can be a very, very quiet voice and it can be so easily overwhelmed, but you put a microphone to that and then, he or she has some power.
Yeah, and in the beginning, when you're getting used to it, if you're new to it, all you have to do is just speak slow, maybe even whisper, but get used to speaking your own voice truth. And I believe now I'm looking back from a long life. If I would have done that myself, I think I would have avoided a lot of, let's just say, unfun experiences or learning lessons. But it's easy to say once you're older looking back, but that's what I would tell people.
Yeah, and sometimes those learning experiences are, I mean, it's part of life and we get a lot out of it, but it is easy to look back as you're older and go, I wish I did that differently or I could have done
Yeah.
that differently. But that's a great message. I think that's a great message for everybody because, like, I think about little children and little children, unless they're in any kind of abusive situation, they really don't have that much trouble expressing what they want. You can see it. They cry, they yell, they laugh, they point at things and all of that. And we're conditioned to just put that voice under a blanket and that little child and that expressiveness is still there trying to come
Yeah.
out. So that's a good message for people. So thank you for embodying that.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's get into your life. Okay, so you sent me an email and you told me in general this is what my life was, and I'm like, oh, holy cow, this
Yeah.
life is amazing. Like you couldn't even put that life like in a movie. They should put it in a movie, but It's so much adventure, and you definitely have the personality type to jump into adventure. You know, you were on Survivor, you were on these different shows, and you've been with lions, and you were held at gunpoint in Israel, and I want you to tell a little bit about about this, and then we're gonna get to what was the impetus of like a spiritual awakening for you, or was it there all along? So, where do you want to start? Do you want to tell us a little bit about your childhood, or do you want to kind of jump into like the Survivor shows and all?
Yeah, well, I can just shortly mention that my childhood, I think I early, sorry for my language discrepancy here. I learned in early age that my feeling was, my inner voice told me that I don't really match so many people or so many situations. It was my feeling. I was so out of the, mm, I was so different, or I didn't, like people that live with other people, they usually do the same things. We learn this is how you do. I early learned that I didn't really fit in. That was my feeling, and back then it might not have felt so good, but I it kind of made my focus go outwards, and my focus meaning it could be I'll go outside a lot. It could be, I don't know if I should admit this on interview, but I had a a life one of those road signs was my friend because I was outside early in the morning, no one to play with. I remember I was 5 or something, and that became a good friend of mine. So I went down there every morning and talked to this road sign, because it was like there was no complications. It was listening, and whatever I wanted to do, I could do and say. So there was no one complaining. There was no judgment. There was, now that I've said
Yeah.
this, I'm going to have people talk to me about it. But I think it represented the part of no judgment. And so even though I felt out of place, it kind of made me focus outwards and to other live nature, animals, and a road sign. But then at school, I was a troublemaker. I was always the odd one out. Odd one out meaning I was what some would call obnoxious, probably. I just wanted to have fun and play, and I can't sit down too long at the same time. And you want me to do this math, and I just want to have gymnastics. And, it was just really hard for me to be in school. So I always got sent out of the door. And the interest and stand outside to look into the other students learning. And what can I say about that? I ventured on, and I was a bit of a troublemaker in my teenage years, also, just to the edge. I went just to the edge. I didn't go to jail. I didn't deal drugs, but I was one of the crazy girls that were not afraid of talking to a troublemaker, a stranger on the road, saying your hair looks real. I came out in some situations that really weren't good for me, but that was just my life then. I had a hard time navigating my level of obnoxiousness, some would say. And then I went to the States, got married, had my first child over there, and lived there 6 years, came back and had some more children, got divorced. The reason I can dive into it, but we don't have that much time. um,
Yeah.
and then after that, I just started this, let's say, adventures, more, let's say, low key life versus my younger years. But to the rest of the society, my low key years might look wild, and this is what we're talking about here. So I found another way to channel my energy as a parent, and it was a big switch becoming a parent, because everything changed, and I needed to be a good parent. And so all that wildness and obnoxiousness kind of turned into, I have to do the best for my kids, but we want to have fun. So I made these crazy trips to, I had a dream, actually, the one in Key West. I had a dream that was so intense, and me, I was waking up with some dolphins, and these dolphins in the water. It was so beautiful. and I cried. That's how intense that dream was, or whatever it was, a dream or whatever it was. And I remember saying to myself, we need to experience that, and we're going to do it in a year. And from then on, I had 3 jobs, still my kids with me. And I asked them, what do you want to do if we go on this trip? Well, I want to do this. I want to do this. They weren't that old at the time. Well, that's not true. It was my youngest was, whew, he was, what was he, 10 or something? Um, so, long story short, a year later, I ventured off with them for 3 months in Key West, and they went to school there. Their father is American citizen, so that kind of made it possible. And I was volunteering with dolphins for those 3 months, and had some great experiences. And then I went on to make another trip for Thailand with them, where we did the same thing. My one girl said, "Mom, I want to be at an orphanage," and another person said, "I want to sleep in a tree." And so we made the trip according to what we wanted. Um,
Hmm.
and then Africa and Lapland in minus 28. But long story short, ended up seeing these possibility to go to this survivor. Um, and at that time, I had I'll call it cancer, but I like to say imbalance, because cancer as a word, I think, has so much.
It's
Uh,
got a lot of baggage. It has a lot of baggage.
it
It's got a
makes
lot
people
attached to
put,
it.
yes. So
Yeah.
I usually use the word imbalance, but I actually had my first time cancer when I went to survivor. I didn't get chemo. I didn't get. I had radiation the first time, and the second time was when I declined medicine, and I thought, well, I'll get sunshine. I'll be able to meditate. I'll be very physical. I'll be happy because it's passion. I'll do it. So I actually went on to Survivor not knowing if I was going to really survive or not in many
Oh,
ways.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I wasn't sick. It didn't, I want to be
Yeah.
respectful for the people who actually are ill, meaning not able to walk and talk, etc. My imbalance, I looked normal. I looked like there was nothing, and it didn't feel in any way as if I was sick. So maybe that's why I was able to make that choice.
Mhm, mhm. Let me stop you right there because you said a lot, and I wanna go way back to the road sign.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's weird. I think that children are often, I shouldn't say children are often. When a child looks around and this world is strange to me, and I love these people, but I don't understand them, or they don't understand me. There's a whole world out there to communicate with. And
Yeah.
you could communicate with animals and plants and the dirt and rocks. And, road sign is there, it's stable. That sign is there, the same place every day. And, it survives all the weather and stuff like that. It makes perfect sense that that could be something that you end up kind of chatting with and getting to know. My last guest talked about how everything is alive. Everything is alive. So we engage in a very, very small bandwidth of vision and hearing and everything. We think that's it, but there's so much more. So I just wanted to validate that experience because
Yeah. Thank you.
that makes a lot of sense to me. And also, have you ever seen the movie L.A. Story?
No, no, I haven't.
Oh, it's with Steve Martin. And anyway, he talks to a road sign, and the road sign talks back to him.
Oh,
But it's one of
yes.
those signs. Yeah, it's one of those signs where it's the signs that have lights, and it can talk. I mean, it writes words, like
Oh,
slow
nice.
down kind of thing. Yeah. So anyway, it's a good one to watch. It also has a spiritual message for sure. So it sounds to me like you have always kind of wanted to jump in, have a kind of a zest for life, a zeal, a zest for life, want to try new things, and it sounds like you were a really fun mom. I your, your kids say, "Let's go here," and you're like, "Okay, fine."
I appreciate that you think that. I think they also think that some of the time.
Okay,
But
yeah.
yeah,
I was
but
wondering about that. Yeah.
yeah, as all moms, I've when I was parenting, I think I did everything and more to make it a fun, stable, respectable life for them. My mother, when I was growing up, was very depressed, and that made some uncomfortable energy around. I always had to make sure I felt like I wanted to, I was balancing her mood by making things fun. And so I always was able to understand or feel her way of how she was doing. And having that as a parenting for that many years, I decided that I am not going to be depressed. I won't have it. No matter what happens, I'm going to find the positive, because I was like moving away from all that, what I did not want to be. There's
Right.
also
Yeah.
some learning lessons in that, because I also have to be with the difficult feelings and be with the traumas that are in life. And I know that. So, yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, you want to not escape from
Right.
feelings.
Yeah.
Are you doing this because you're escaping from feelings, or are you, feeling everything and also just wanting to have an adventure as part of life? Those are two different things. And I know, like now you are. What did I say? I've got to find I've got to find this in your bio.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
have you're certified energy healer, you're clairvoyant and a medium. Was any of that showing up early in your life, or did that come later?
I think I've been thinking about that also, and through my learning and certifications, I've learned that when I was younger, probably around 6, I've had some not encounters, some situations where I was really scared because I saw something that I didn't understand. I saw a person looking thing that I didn't understand what was, and it was like coming closer to me. And I remember distinctly being so scared. And it was when, how there's, what is it called, every 4 years, the Olympics. And I
Mhm.
remembered being so scared, and I was thinking to myself, Bettina, in 4 years you're not going to be this scared. You're just going to wait for next time there's Olympics. It's not going to feel this way. But I remember being really scared of these energies. And my teacher, when I was going through the certifications, told me that she believed that it was spirits that I was getting close to, but being scared of. What it really was, I don't know. All I can say is that I've had some situations that had me really scared, and that
Mhm.
changed along the way. My mom died in 1999, and I remember saying, I'm just going to go back. She had an accident on her moped, or she felt something where she fell off her moped and died. And I immediately said, "Oh, I'm just going to go down and pick up her soul." And I had no clue why I said that. It's just what I said. My husband at the time thought I went nuts, because he thought, "Oh man, she's going to go all out there." But that situation was the starting point of me trying to do more engagement in the spiritual world.
Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
started, yeah, that's now 24 years ago. But it's been a slow road, being a parent, living life, ignoring it, forgetting it. And then it kind of came back in the last 6 years, uh,
Okay, yeah. I
where,
think that's not uncommon. I think that we do, sometimes as a child, we have an experience that's a little paranormal or something beyond that, where and then we, like, wanna forget it, or we forget about it, and then
yeah.
it comes back later. Did you have any kind of religious upbringing?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, my mom is from Finland, and she was out from the boonies, out in the farms there, and she met my dad. He's from an island here in Denmark, and they just were, I guess, normal people, somewhat.
I don't know what that is.
No, there was, we had a pretty free upbringing. We could do what we wanted. My dad was working a lot. As I said before, my mom was a bit depressed. I think for her, it was really difficult to move from Finland to Denmark, come from a farmer's family, all of a sudden to Denmark and not know anyone or anything, get married, have children. For her soul, that was too much, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so,
Yeah, I was just wondering if you had any sense of, a power beyond yourself. If you grew up with any kind of teachings around that, and it sounds
no.
like it was fairly secular. Yeah, growing up. Okay,
No, I
okay,
no, I didn't actually. No.
all right. Okay, so let's jump to Survivor because I can't remember when I stopped watching that show, but I did watch a few seasons. Man, that is rough. That is, it is a
Yeah.
rough experience. I mean, like, so you were like in 2013. I don't know how long the show had been on by that time, but you've probably seen enough.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I actually wanted to join from the beginning. In Denmark, I remember it was on, I think in 98 or
Yeah,
something,
that
when you
sounds
had to
about right.
write a letter to, uh, and I was parenting. And so, I didn't really think that it was fitting because believe it or not, even though I am and was a wild child, parenting is the first let's say, role in a positive sense that I've taken 150% seriously. So anything else has been put on the back burner except the wildness. But the respectful parenting has and still does mean a lot to me. So to get back to the question, I figured out years and years and years of not applying. I thought, I'm going to do it and I'm just going to do it. And I was very surprised when they called me up and said that if I was interested in going. And I remember thinking, my husband and I was divorced at the time, and I have been single mom with my kids for what 17 years or something. And I was thinking, how am I going to say that to him? And I ended up telling the people at the production, they said, do you have place for your children to be watched? And it's like, oh, yeah, it's all done. It said everything is fine. And it always is. But I had not talked to him about it at that time. And he, of course, was a great guy. And he stood up and was with the children while I went there.
So okay, I think Survivor can be really brutal socially. Socially, it can
Yeah.
be very, very brutal, and physically, it can be very, very brutal. So I'm really kind of curious about what lessons you learned there about people and about yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I had prepared for most of the physical parts. I had prepared my body. I remember being very concerned about the part about not eating, about competition or challenges where you had to eat um, uh,
that's all right. Awful things.
the insides of
Yeah,
chicken
yeah,
or a
yeah,
head of
yeah, yeah.
a frog.
We
And
can move past that.
but what I did not expect, and I'm a strong, mentally and emotionally, I feel I'm a pretty strong woman, but it surprised me really a lot that the social part of it, the emotional, let's say, mind games,
Yes.
how much that affected me, because that from 1 to 10, that affected me like till 12. And I was very surprised. All the other stuff with the eating the stuff and the faces and the all that, I really did well with. And the physical part and my ability to be in the game, um, I did well. But the social games were brutal, as to use your word. That surprised me. That was really tough.
Yeah, to me, when I look at shows like that, that's what it is, 100%. Like they kind of mess with you physically, but this is social games that people play, and to me, you have to have a very solid core, very, very solid core to be able to handle those kinds of social situations. And I'm curious about if you grew in that way, or if you kind of went in. Well, it sounds like you didn't go in expecting it to be that challenging, as challenging as it was socially. Did you change spiritually or socially out of that experience?
Um, I changed socially in the sense that I realized that couldn't always see when people were something else than what they were saying. Um, I,
Okay.
eh, um, so having people telling me, even though I knew that they might be lying, I was still surprised at how well they covered it.
Yeah.
Um, and and in terms of looking back at my two times there, I enjoyed it. I think it was wonderful, terrible, fantastic, atrocious. It was all emotions in one for me,
Yeah.
and I don't think I would do it again. I At least I know I won't apply again. But if I was asked, I'm not sure if I would say no.
Well, what I'm really curious about is somebody like you who you seem to recognize that, from an early age, that you're different, or that the world, you're not conforming to the world. You're not conforming to the world. So you go onto a reality TV show, which is kind of a social thing where people are lying all the time and playing a game. And I could get that you would do all the physical stuff, to play the game. Were you able to find yourself, were you able to play the emotional game? Were you able to, try to connive your way, or were you just kind of your authentic self there?
No, I wanted to be my authentic self. I tried the best I could, meaning tried. I know that sounds not smart, but I knew that no matter what people would say, it could be a plot to win. And I went into it knowing that. I thought I was going to be, I thought that it was only what I said and what I did that could affect me, even in the media afterwards. But what I realized is that people, they told me, oh, Bettina, you can only get hung out in the media for stuff you do or you say. But what I realized is that that's not true. And anyone who talks about, people going into these survivor programs, it's your own fault. You decided to contest, so you need to take what comes at you. And I totally get that, and I take responsibility. I'm still surprised that even things you don't say or have not done that other people say you have done can put you.
Oh, the reputation. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, or people,
Yeah.
people have said, there was one person who said something about me and it wasn't true at all. And if it was, I would lay in that bed. But that sentence he said was put out in the media and it went all over and that surprised me a little bit. Although my mind tell me, Bettina, of course, media needs to make money. So, but I
Yeah.
still was surprised experiencing it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're putting yourself in a situation that I think any of those shows, whether it's Survivor or Bachelor or Bachelorette or whatever, you're putting in a situation where they're going to use you, to the advantage of producing the show and all of that. So to me, I think you would have to come out from that kind of experience, either like destroyed as a person or puffed up as a person, or eventually go, heck with it all. I was there, I did my best, here I am, and so be it.
Yeah, I ended up having that feeling, as you just said here in the end. I think, the first year after coming back or coming home or coming out of it was tough, especially if you, like me, was going for it. And I had my elbows and I didn't, well, I told myself, Bettina, you have to be there imagining your boss is there looking at you, your children is there looking at you,
Mhm,
and your
mhm.
karma is there looking at you. And I really remembered those things, but that didn't mean that no one thought I was an idiot or worse, based on their belief. But I came home with my integrity and my ethics and moral in order according to my perspective. Um,
Well,
but
it's better to be thought of as an idiot than as a lying, cheating
yeah,
SOB.
yeah, but some of the other contestant might think that of me, but that doesn't
Uh-huh.
change my belief of what I put out there. But after about a year, maybe a year and a half, it kind of dies down, and a new season comes on, and then you go in the background, and it's not so crazy anymore. And I still appreciate my experience there. I wouldn't have traded it out for anything. It's a
Okay.
big, it's a big part of who I am, and it was like a milestone for me that I accomplished it, and I thought it was really cool to see the whole setting and experience it. I really did. And I usually tell people, and people go, "I would have never done that." And I said, "No, that's why I did it."
Yeah, yeah. So you have a pattern or propensity to want to have experiences that are unique and exciting and adventurous. And so that would have been it, that would have been it. But I think it takes a real solid core to come out fairly unscathed emotionally from that kind of experience and then put yourself back into it. I think it's just really, really rough. It's like people whose lives are in the spotlight, anything they do, they wear baggy sweatpants or they don't have makeup on or whatever, and paparazzi's there, and that existence, I think, for me, I wouldn't like that, but a lot of people thrive in that. But I guess I'm really see to me the spiritual path is about becoming your authentic self and becoming who you came on this planet to be. So, Bettina, you're a unique person. I'm a unique person. Everybody who's listening has their own uniqueness, their own skills, their own gifts, and everything. And that I think we're here to kind of live full out with what we've been given and also to grow and to learn about ourselves and to expand in consciousness and awareness and then end up being a light for others. And so
Yeah.
that's why I think everybody is on the spiritual path in some way. I don't think it's necessarily talking to spirits. It can be. But when I think about your life, or I should just say, when you think about your life, do you see that you've been on this path to really express your authentic nature and to grow and to shine your light?
It's a really good question. I look back, and a lot of the my journeys have been outwards journeys, out in the wild, out experiencing, out with the animals, like sensing on the outside, even the survivor and other things. And um, my cancer story also was a having to figure out how to balance myself. So I feel my life has been like from a very outside life with experience on the outside. Then my imbalance came along, and I had to figure out, oh, I can't just heal myself from the outside. I have to go inside. And from there it kind of became more profound, that the spiritual part made more sense, and I was more ready for that. I wasn't ready for that before, although I had the certificates that said I was ready. I wasn't ready, my soul wasn't ready. But I believe that everything that I have accomplished in my life has been I can see how it can have prepared me for my path today, because it seems like I am mm, encountering situations where, especially now with my new thing with Stargate, I have to again face these potential judgmental behaviors, and I believe that my past has prepared me for that.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I've tried it before. You can come at me. It's okay. Uh, yeah. So I believe that I am in the right place at the right time, and I am glad to be here. And it's a more inner experience now. And
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when your body ends up not working in some way. We don't have to diagnose what that is, but whatever it is, it's at first, the medical world wants to treat you from the outside. They
Mhm.
want to give you medicine, injections, whatever. They want to, they've got the answer, all comes to the outside. Ultimately, that can mitigate your symptoms, but ultimately the healing is an inner journey.
Exactly.
You got to go in. You got to find out what's going on with my body. Where's the imbalance? Why am I experiencing an imbalance? And how do I rebalance myself? And it sounds like you did that with, especially the second time with cancer, where you went the natural route.
Exactly. And it's funny because I haven't thought about it until you asked, but looking at my life, it's more clear even right now that it's been an outwards life. Then my body told me it's not gonna.
It's not all out there.
It's yeah. No, you need to look in. Although it's been fun though.
Sure.
um, and then it changed totally to an inner journey, and I wouldn't have been without any of them actually.
Yeah,
Any of
well, I think that the people, there's a pattern of the spiritual journey. Not everybody has the same pattern, but generally speaking, I'd say there's a bell curve where the pattern is I'm searching outside of myself in some way. Usually, not in your case. Usually, people are like on the corporate ladder. They're getting the cars, they're getting the nice houses, the women or the men or whatever it is, and living the life, and then they find how empty it is. That's a very, very common pattern. Yours is really interesting because you're you're seeking adventure, and
them.
part of that is natural. A big part of that's natural. Your personality wants to experience life and have fun and try that and go there and go there. And so but there's not that, oh, I'm so sick of this, it's not working. So it's kind of interesting. I think your body's like, well, you're not going to notice that because you're having fun out there.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And yeah,
You're not going to feel that it's not working. So hey, come on in.
I think you're right. And I've told some people, when they ask, so what do you think the message is when you got this imbalance the second time? And I think um, I I don't even want to say the words loud, but I feel that maybe I was more of a machine before,
Uh-huh.
and I became human. So before I could do marathons, I've done marathons, etc. I told my mind, "You just run, girl, you run," and I did. Where now it's more, I run and wow, there's a bird. I can stop now. Where before it's like, no, 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 21 miles, girl, you're not stopping. So I didn't even see, and smell the roses. So that's the part I'm coming into now, and that's
Yeah.
really beautiful. And I'm almost, I wouldn't say too far out there, but again, like the to get back to the road sign, I'm like out for 5 hours and it's only a 2 mile walk, talking to birds and standing in front of the tree and meditating and saying thank you. And people were stopping with the dog. They were like standing there. Excuse me, what are you harvesting? So, but that's a really beautiful experience to have, and I have many of them now. So I can understand if people who are not experiencing that maybe look at me as like, whoa, honey, there's you need, if this was 10 years ago, I might have been put behind bars or something, or getting, but yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about being human, because you mentioned that because I think in both scenarios, yours and the traditional corporate person that I was talking about, there is kind of a mechanicness to it. There's a mechanical, habitual part to it, and then you said then you kind of moved into being more human, and I think not many people characterize that transformation by saying they're now more human.
Mhm.
They tend to say, I'm more spiritual, or I'm more light, or that. So you're saying you're more human. Can we expound on that? I know you talked about going out and talking to animals, but I think it means it's a pretty profound statement.
Yeah, and thank you for asking, because one of the things I also have on my to-do list of things to remember to tell you is there's three layers, because if there's the machine in the beginning, the fun machine, because I want to respect and honor the fun I've had, and then it turned into being more human, and now where before I was human, knowing mentally that there is such a thing as a soul, not knowing really where it was, not knowing what to do with it, maybe 1%. That transition, the last, what, 4 or 5 years, have become, now I am more soul, being aware of the human. So thank you for asking that, because that's an important transition from the machine to the human to the more soul. So actually, I'm having experiences where I'm laughing at my human, because when I am in balance and in touch and meditated and grounded, I'm not saying I'm always this, but I can even laugh at my own human behaving a certain way with an ego, or so me meditating in the forest, this is the soul having fun, my wild child as a soul. Um, and that is a message that I will mm, go a long way for, because that takes care of is a wrong word, but that will heighten not only me, my machine, my human, but also consciousness. So
Yeah.
I've become like a soldier of a soldier. That's not a right word. What's it called? A
Like a beacon or a,
Well, ambassador
well,
for
ambassador. Okay.
consciousness, and and
Okay.
and um and that's really a beautiful thing, because then it takes care of not me just doing me. I am helping consciousness by my soul becoming more full.
Well, I think that we often confuse what we're doing in the world, whether it's doing to satisfy ourselves, or even doing to help others, or even doing to change the world. We change the world by just being the light that we are.
Exactly.
you know, we
Yeah.
change the world by the light. And where you are now, and taking walks and communing with nature and talking to the animals and, and all that, in a kind of relaxed way, and being more like the soul looking at your human. That's a light. That's a light that impacts all of consciousness, and I think that's very healing for the rest of us. And that's the journey that we're on, to come to this place where we can interact with the outer world, be a part of the outer world, but it doesn't like have us. It's not so compelling that all of our attention goes there. We're just kind of living and being ourselves authentically in that space and being the light. So that's the transformation that it seems like you've made.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a really comfortable place to be. It's a nice. It's like, hmm, happiness is not outside. I know people say this, so it's like a classic thing to say, but we have it all inside. And I think everyone have, talking about clairvoyance and mediumship and healing and all that. I think we all have the different abilities inside us. It's a matter of being ready, and we're different. Sometimes you don't experience this great inner soul love, because there's something else you need to do first, or your path is different.
Yeah.
So it's important not to compare, although I do it all the time too. I'm only human. But we have a different path in life, and if we try to balance, see, the thing is, it's important also to take care of your vehicle, your body, because even if you want to drive to the soul path or messages or doing whatever it is you want to do spiritually, you can't do it if your wheel is broken
Mhm,
on
mhm.
so sleeping at night, eating something well, being trying to do things that makes you happy. If I could say one thing, it would be that the heart, take care of your heart, and go for your passion, and everything else will open, because then you don't want to look anywhere else because it's here. It's
Mhm.
easier said than done, but I think we all have it.
Well, I think there's a fable or a parable about hiding, like the divine within the heart because people will never look there.
Oh,
You
that's a
know,
good one.
like it's a great hiding place because everyone's
Yeah.
out there looking for it, but it's in our heart. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Um,
and happy. You can be happy in the see. If I would do a speech or something, it could be how to be happy in the middle of everything. You know, in the middle of being single mom or having cancer. I'm not saying you're going to be jumping up and down every day, but it's about shining the flashlight, not at the part that's, you can deal with your imbalance and your unhappiness, but don't have a party there. Take the flashlight and try to look at some of the positive things in your life that gives you good feelings. Because as Bruce Lipton and Joe Dispenza and other great people say, your emotions, or your thoughts will create emotions, who will create chemistry in your body, and who wouldn't want to have more fun. So
mhm.
if you don't believe fun helps your immune system, the downside is that you have fun. So it's a win-win, you
The
know?
worst thing that could possibly happen is you had fun.
Exactly. So even if you don't believe it, why not? And it's
Yeah,
free. It
yeah.
could be, there's a guy who healed himself, he believes, I forget what he's called, and he was doing it by laughing, and he watched something funny every day, 10 minutes, and he eased his pain in his
It
disease,
it's a very healing. Laughter is very healing. Yeah.
Yeah. And
They studied that. Yeah.
yeah, and it's those little things that are all put in the pile of a good life. So it's about collecting, harvesting what makes you feel good. Even if you're imbalanced or in a depressing situation, why, not, I can't judge like that. Find some pluses to even out the balance, and you'll have a better time.
Well, I think that's why gratitude lifts us up, whenever we look at how be grateful for, the little bird that's just is on perching on my windowsill or the flower that's blossoming or my cat or my dog or the sunshine or the wonderful sandwich I just had. Just gratitude just lifts us up and rather than focusing on what's wrong.
Yeah, you're right. When I'm in my soul moments, I can see myself in a grocery store asking a lady to give her a hug. I look this way because that's really weird. Um, but she accepted it, and she was so happy. And so when you're in that path with yourself, and you have to check the person you give a hug, but it kind of, what's it called, it affects others, then it affects others again and again. So you can, like, one person does something good. I'm having a hard time with the words I want to
Oh,
say.
that's okay. It's not your first language, but you're doing great. It's a ripple effect. So
Thank you. Yeah,
I'm kind to one person, they're kind to 10 people, and then they're kind to 10 people, and
exactly.
you just impacted a million people, over time. So
Yeah.
let's pivot a little bit to what you're doing today,
Mhm.
because you mentioned I can't remember the name of some project you're working on. Maybe
I'm
that's the thing with the children.
No, no. I'm writing a book called Stargate. I
Oh,
have
Stargate.
already,
Okay.
yes, I've written a book already that's not translated in English yet, but what I'm focusing on now is my experience, going from clairvoyance and mediumship and healing, which has been a long path, and there's some important things to talk about that also. But Then I went to this session and experienced. We were gonna all meditate, and everyone got a number in our hand, and I got number one, and the teacher says, now everyone, I'm going to do a guided meditation, and you're going to tune in on this number, this person you have, soul's purpose. And we're sitting with this, and I'm sitting, and we're meditating, and then you write down some things that you're getting in a meditation, and I'm writing it down, and she said, I'm going to ask two of you, and there were 18 people, um, about your experience. And I put up my hand because I was so shocked. I was like, wow, this person is like a bridge, a communicate, what was it called? Universal communicator. And everyone's looking, and they say, that's really beautiful. And I was talking. And then she ends up, and then I said, I have it on tape because I taped it. And then I said, wow, who is this person? And then the teacher looks at us and said, well, you read yourself. and and so from that moment, and then time after that, I've had some intense spiritual meditations, and nightly, not every night, but once in a while, I get a visit, a feeling, a word. Words I don't even know, because English is not my first language. So I've gotten a word called Stargate, and woke up and I Googled what is Stargate, and then I'm doing research on that, and I'm getting different. I call them astral words because I don't know what they mean. I figure out what they mean. So, um, I, because it can be looked upon a bit strange, but now with Bashar and all the other ones there, it's not so strange after all. But it feels as if I am having experiences where I encounter mm, universal geography. I'm having, I can have a word coming, and I can have a visual of being dissolved, like my human being dissolved. And then I get certain knowings, a knowing of how I call it dinosaur like I feel Earth is and human are. And I'm not a political person. I'm not a person who talks about AI and technology and anything like that. I'm just a simple one out in the woods. So all these things for me are like, what? So that has started a very interesting journey for me, and I wanted to write about it. And I thought, what am I going to call it? And it got Stargate. Okay, excuse me.
Yeah.
So I'm getting some very clear
Like,
messages and
mhm.
experiences. So it could be, it could either be in a meditation where I actually meditate to have an experience, or it can be while I'm in daily life if I'm in a spiritual meditative state, and it could be while I'm sleeping. I get a word or a. I've had one time where I felt like I was up kind of like astral projection, but not
Mhm,
really.
mhm.
But all this, I have to Google, what does this mean? So my level of spirituality in terms of clairvoyance and mediumship and stuff, it's kind of gone a 2.0 somehow without me knowing much about it. Yeah.
Okay, so you're getting some where you are in life, you've gotten a sense or a directive that, you're some sort of bridge intergalactically or something, um, in this time. We're in a very, very interesting time.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of people out there that are kind of rising to some awareness that there's a major transformation that's happening at this time without really knowing what that is, but a major transformation of Earth and humanity. And so you're getting a sense that you're going to play some part in this. And I think all of us are going to play a part in it in some
Yeah.
way, but it's
Yes,
getting
and
clearer to you.
yeah, and I'm trying to be. I don't want to downplay my experience, but I'm also humble, and I am not one to say I'm doing things that I'm not. So I rather say less about what I experience than come out and say, "Oh yeah, I'm talking to the," and kind of be
No, yeah, I get
bragging
that. No,
about it.
yeah, yeah.
As my dad used to say, "Bettina, remember," and he didn't mean this to me, I hope, but he said, "Remember, empty cans makes more noise." I thought that was a
That's a really interesting
yeah, and
lesson.
he
Yeah.
and then he said, "Remember, you're not selling from an empty wagon." So he was a really mentor for me in many ways. And he said, "Why can't you have a speech? What makes you different from those over there? Just list your stuff." In other words, he tried to cheer me on. So he has helped me a lot in it. But I am very judgmental. If I have a, did I say that word? I did. If I, well, there's people who say they're clairvoyant and they're medium and they're and that's okay, but I there's it's important that we're humble and we have our ethics and morals in order. I have experienced more than once that um, you're sitting in front of someone and what you have you're thinking you're coming to is a mediumship spirit session, but then they start doing clairvoyance on you. And so I'm very nerdish when it comes to knowledge about things. So in this Stargate experience, um, I'm stumbling a little bit about telling about it. And at the same time, I know I need to.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And when you approached me, I don't know if you remember, but I'm like, I'm not really crazy about mediums. I'm not saying I'm not saying that I don't appreciate mediums, but it's not what I typically want to have on this
No, no,
podcast, because my podcast is much more about the human journey, and which I think is a spiritual journey, that the finding ourselves and becoming who we are and shining our light. And you don't have to be a medium or a clairvoyant to be spiritual.
no, no.
Yeah.
You're
So
right.
I was like, I try to kind of downplay that. At the same time, things are happening for some people now, that this awakening and this kind of opening up of different dimensions or something going on. So it is interesting that this is
Yeah.
happening for you. We don't have to focus on it anymore, but it is something that sounds like it's up for you, and you're just going to have to discern how to speak about it, how much to
Mhm.
share about it, and what is when and where is the right time to talk about it.
Yeah, yes. And I write about it. I record my experiences, and I'm just trying to get the puzzles to make a picture that I can understand.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
all.
I like that. I like you're sharing this experience, because you're sharing the actual experience, because some people just think people are just naturally born this way, or
Mhm.
suddenly they get a download. And you're sharing that the experience can be, I don't know what the information I just got, I don't really understand what that means, I've got to go find out. And that's a it's good for people to know that an awakening can happen in that way too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate you giving voice to that. Now we're over our hour. We're getting kind of
Oh,
close to our time. I know
yes.
there's so much to talk about,
Yeah.
but I do want to make sure that you've wanted to say whatever else you wanted to say. We didn't really get into the lions. We didn't get into being held at gunpoint in Israel.
Oh, real. Wow. Yeah. I have a whole bunch of stuff to tell you about. We're gonna have to do it in your show number 400 or something.
Yeah, we'll do it again. We'll do it again.
Yes.
Yeah. But is there anything else that you want to share today that has the spiritual theme, the human theme, the awakening theme? Hope, awakening, and inspiration is what we're all about here.
Yes. We're all, I think I've said most of it, but I think we're all perfect as we are. And it's important to, I believe, of course, coming from me, to have fun while we're doing it. Because at the end, I believe we have more than one life, but I'm not going to sit in a bench in a cloud saying, wow, why didn't I don't want to be making a movie I don't want to see myself. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean?
Yeah,
So
I
you're
do.
sitting
I
there
do.
zapping through your life
Yeah.
movie, and
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be wild every day, but have you been true to your inner voice? Who are you giving the microphone? Um,
Yeah.
that's
And are
basic.
you alive? I think, there's a certain aliveness to your journey where it seems that you've been very loyal to the idea, the experience, I should say, of being alive.
Yeah, I've tried, and I also have run too fast sometimes. I've put my head against the wall many times, ended up with some stress and migraines. I've had a lot of, it's not like I haven't done my part with cancer and migraines and
Yeah.
stress, but it's not what I'm putting my flashlight on,
Yeah.
because that will get me depressed, and I ain't going to be depressed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for me sounding like this, but uh, deal with your problems and then move on. And if you
Yeah.
can't move on, find something to laugh about that helps you.
I
Yeah,
love it.
good.
I love it. Yeah. Laughter is a great cure. So, well, thank you so much for sharing just a little piece of your life, your very, very adventurous life, very,
Yeah.
very, very fun life. Are you familiar with the Enneagram?
Yes, I am. Am I a
You must be
seven?
a seven.
I've heard that before.
You're 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 definitely a seven.
Yeah, and
We can talk more about that.
yeah, I want to say I'm sorry if I've been scattered in my conversations about it all, because there's so much to share. So I've tried to do my best with what I had.
Oh, I think you were great because it was very authentic, and I think we had a really heart-to-heart exchange versus just, talk and listen and talk and listen. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. I thought it was really, really great. And English isn't your first language, but you really are very, very, I mean, highly adept at English.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah.
try. Sometimes people mistake mm, a my ability to pronounce words is fine. So people think I actually know what I'm talking about, and sometimes I don't. But I can pronounce it. I can
That's
pronounce
amazing.
the words, but I don't know what I'm talking about. But
I love that. And who would authentically share that? But Bettina Tammaro. All right. Thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you everyone for listening. And I think that in some way you've been inspired in a hopeful way, and hopefully we're assisting everybody on their awakening journey. So thank you for being with me and for being with us. And I now close the spiritual forum.